Okay, let's talk about some of the things that are going to be a little more specific to Bio 110 and some of the things that you need to be aware of for your particular course. So again, your instructors will tell you what their schedule is, what their expectations are as far as dates that you're going to be meeting. I generally do in an online summer class, it would be a Monday, Wednesday lecture and a Tuesday, Thursday lab. Your instructors may do a Monday, Wednesday lab and a Tuesday, Thursday lecture. They will let you know what that is. So pay attention. Your instructors will post their information in the course schedule and due dates and the course overview. So, and the course syllabus, like I've asked them to do that. So make sure that that's there. Couple things. So when you're doing attendance for an online class, it's not just a matter of going on for biology and posting in a discussion board. That is not going to be the main requirement for your course. For your course, you are going to be asked to do attendance quizzes for lecture and lab assignments for lab. That is going to be how your attendance is taken, okay? Attendance is taken on the days that are decided. Again, it will depend on the particular instructor. But your attendance needs to be completed by 11:59 on the day that that attendance is due. If it is turned in late, so if you take the attendance quiz and you turn it in at 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and it was due at 11:59 p.m., you are absent for the day that you were supposed to be in class. So if, for instance, you have a Monday, Wednesday class and you want to do your homework on Sunday, cool, okay? As far as that sort of thing, that is a little more asynchronous. You are absolutely allowed to and encouraged to look at things in advance, but you need to make sure that it is completed by the required time, by the due date, in order to be counted present in class. If you have so many absences, Coastal's policy is that you will be academically withdrawn, and you would need to talk with your instructor about reinstatement, and generally there's a reinstatement agreement that would need to be signed. So do just keep that in mind. So let's talk about some of the things that you'll see. So if you are, for instance, you've completed your entry verification, you've completed all of your Welcome to Bio 110 materials, which includes syllabus quiz, the Respondus lockdown browser, which is a requirement for this class. You will be required to have a webcam. You will be required to use the lockdown browser on exams, and your screens will be recorded. So do keep that in mind. That is going to be important for ensuring that you are fulfilling requirements of you doing the work as a student without using external materials. Coastal and my personal policy is that everything that you need in my class is provided to you in my class. No one else should be doing your work. You do not need to use ChatGPT. You probably shouldn't even Google things, because unless you're sure of what you're talking about, you're going to find incorrect information, and you absolutely cannot use external materials on the test. That does include the book, that does include the homework assignments, that does include anything else, unless otherwise stated by your instructor. So there is a zero tolerance for plagiarism and cheating, and you will receive a 0 on those assignments. So just don't do it. This is about your learning and your education. So you'll see that there's some work here that you'll need to do, including these videos. And then if you finish all of that and you get into the lecture materials, you're like, awesome, I did the prereq materials. What does it mean, okay, to go through Bio 110? So in Bio 110, you are covering the whole range, basically, of what makes something alive, from the chemistry of life and the kind of basic units, all the way up to ecosystems and the whole biosphere. I have the course split out into 6 units. Each unit is at most 4 chapters. Usually each unit is only 3 chapters. Bite-sized chunks. It does mean that you have more exams, but it also means that each exam is like 6.5% of your total grade. So that way, it kind of balances out, okay? My class is built in such a way that if you do the work, if you learn and try to understand the material, you will pass the class with a transferable grade. Now, that does not guarantee you an A, okay? But if you do the work and you try hard to learn, most of the students who've taken my class have successfully passed the requirements to have that class be transferable, which means you have at least a C, okay? Transfer classes to other schools is a C, okay? So say you finish your stuff, it's day 1, you go into chapter 1 to do your chapter 1 assignment. when you click into that material, you'll see Chapter 1 study questions. These are based on the objectives that you are asked to learn for this particular chapter. These are from the book, and that is what is used to build the exam as well as build the homework assignments. So one of the things that students have done in the past is they've asked me for a study guide, and I've said your objectives are your study guide. They are now questions. You should be able to answer all of these questions before you move on to the next chapter and before you take the Unit 1 exam. So definitely make sure that you are checking yourself on that, okay? All of the lectures are also listed in here as a YouTube video. You can open them in YouTube. You can watch them directly in here, whatever works for you. These have been recorded in past semesters, so you may see some information that maybe is a different assignment than what you've been asked to do, or something that's a little bit different. As far as anything you see in those materials is concerned, that is not related to you, okay? The content itself, the course material that you are being taught itself is accurate, has not changed, and so it is still exactly what you need to know in that case, okay? These lectures are based on the PowerPoint, so you can absolutely have the PowerPoints open. You can click on that and it will download the PowerPoint for you. You can have that PowerPoint open and be taking notes on that while you're watching the lecture video. Strongly recommend doing that. And you'll see that the PowerPoints themselves are pretty straightforward. I do often have additional notes in the little notes part of the PowerPoint. Some people find that really useful, some don't. If you want to print them and write notes on them, awesome. If not, you can absolutely take notes based on the slide number as well. So you'll see that. That is exactly what I lecture on, but I always talk about more than what is listed on the PowerPoint because that's how lecture works, okay? In addition, you'll see a section down here called student work. This is going to be what is required of you as homework for Chapter 1. So as you're watching the Chapter 1 lecture, I strongly recommend having the attendance quiz open, and I would recommend right-clicking and opening the link in a new tab and having the attendance quiz and the lecture PowerPoint playing at the same time, because you can work on this attendance quiz. It's not graded. This is just what we are checking to see that you watched the video and did the material. It's a short series of questions. There's no time limit. There's no limit. You can take as many attempts as you want. But this is what we do for attendance. So if this is a Monday class and it says you need to complete the Chapter 1 attendance quiz, this is what it's talking about. So you could go in and do that. I strongly recommend doing it while you're watching the video because you'll likely find answers while you're watching that, and you can always pause the video at any point to answer that attendance quiz. In addition, you'll find the Chapter 1 knowledge check. In this case, this is going to be Connect assignment. So when you click on it, it will open out to your inclusive access McGraw-Hill homework assignments. So as a student, you would go out here, it will pop into, if I click student assignment view here so that you can actually see what it looks like. This is what it will look like. Here's your assignment details. It's 10 points. The due date will actually reflect the due date for your semester, and you get 2 attempts per assignment. The second attempt or the first attempt, whichever one has the highest point value, is the one that is recorded in the Canvas grade book. So this is going to be 25% of your total grade is completing these knowledge checks and relevancy modules when those show up in the particular chapters. So as a student, what that means, and always hit the back button, that'll take you back to where you need to go. It means that you are expected to complete at minimum the attendance quiz and the Chapter 1 knowledge check, okay? But you'll see that there's a third thing here called the pre-lecture extra credit. This pre-lecture extra credit is completely optional, but if you complete them all, it does add into 5% of your total grade to help boost your grade at the end of the semester. These are short videos, usually from the Amoeba Sisters. If you're not familiar with the Amoeba Sisters, you're gonna love them. They are fantastic for biology. And completing those, I would do it before the lecture, because what it does is it introduces the information to you so that when you go into the lecture, it's not the very first time you're hearing it. And then when you go into do the attendance quiz and the Chapter 1 knowledge check, those are, again, not the very first time you're seeing or hearing those things. I have had students try to just do the work and not watch the lecture videos. That is not going to be a successful way to complete this class. your expectation is that you will spend at minimum in a 16-week course 3 hours a week in lecture and 3 hours a week in lab. So lectures are set up to be able to be completed for each chapter within a 50-minute class period. So if you go through, like, you're like, okay, but Ms. Larson, this lecture is only 26 minutes long. Correct. Because the lecture is 26 minutes long, but then you have the pre-lecture work, you have the attendance quiz, you have the knowledge check, you have the study questions, you have notes to take, you may need to pause. In a seated class, there would be a lot more kind of call, response, answers, and questions. In an online class, you get that through the attendance quiz and through working through studying and on working on that material. So you are expected to spend in a 8-week class, you're expected to spend 6 hours a week in lecture. So in a 10-week class, you're expected to spend about roughly 4.5 hours a week on lecture. So with that being expected, this is a little bit of an accelerated course. That is going to be one of the things. So once you've completed the material for chapter 1, you could move on to chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. You cannot do the exam until the instructor opens the exam. So you'll see that right here is the Unit 1 webcam respondus. It is not available to you as a student until the instructor opens it. So you can work ahead on everything except for the exam. That exam is going to then be what is completing your Unit 1 and will then allow you to start working in Unit 2. You cannot work into the next unit until you've completed Unit 1. One other really key thing here, and I'm going to mention this in the time requirements and grades video as well. If you haven't watched that yet, you'll have seen that or you'll see it again. Assignments have a hard cutoff. So if you have chapters 1, 2, 3, 4 knowledge checks, you should do those the day that you do the chapter. Okay, so if you watch the lecture video, you should just go through and do your homework. If you don't have time, maybe you watch the video and you've got a family commitment, you've got work, you've got something going on, it's fine. You will need to complete that before the cutoff date. So there's always going to be a hard end date, which is the last lecture day before the exam. So if your exam is on a Wednesday, the Monday of that unit will be the last day that you can do homework. If you do not submit that homework, since that's not attendance, that's just a grade, if you do not submit that homework by midnight on that day, it is a 0 in the grade book. The students who have not successfully completed Bio 110 are the ones who don't do their homework. Homework is meant to help you reinforce your understanding on the exams. Students who do the homework do better on the exams. In addition, though, 25% of your grade is those homework assignments, and without doing that, you cannot successfully get that C that you would need in the class in order for it to be transferable. So keep that in mind, do your homework, and let your instructor know if you have any questions.